suffocation, no breathing. Don't give a f if I cut my arm bleeding. This is my last resort. This is my last resort.
This is Ramon from Jets Guru, aka @GuruJets on Twitter, and you are now watching Jets Guru Live. Go Jets, 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 Jets.
Let's make sure we play like the New York Jets.
I would never back down, y'all giving up, I would never tap out. Y'all capping, I would never cap out. Made it out the mud from the back of my dad's house. I was so selfish, living with a death wish. Shit was so tempting, ignoring my blessings. Always in bed, but never felt rested. Living so fast, could've died, I got arrested. Mine was
All
a prison
gas,
and I was a
no
victim,
break.
but I was a villain, was losing my vision. I felt something missing with every decision. I think to myself I should be more forgiving. The devil was hitting, but I battled back. Before it was too late, I got back on track. Got used to depression and panic attacks, but I kept walking through hell and I never looked back. I won't ever back down again. Life's been throwing me challenges. I've been staying on track with it, and I will keep it going to the very end. When my life's put to the test, I will not accept second best. I will never back down, I will never hold back. Success up on my mind and I want it so bad. I will never hold back, I will never hold back. I will never back down, I will never hold back. Success up on my mind and I want it so bad. I will never hold back, I will never hold back.
I'ma let 'em know that every time you hear me on the track I be in high resolution. But my last
What's going on, Jets Nation? CJ the Painkiller D. Simone here, and you are watching Jets Guru. Now, give it up for your host, Mr. Daniel Smith!
I'm still bopping to the music out there. I love the intro. Our producer, JR, does such a great job. Very appreciative of all the hard work he does. It is catchy, isn't it, Mike? The song is catchy. And that all goes to JR, man. He does a phenomenal job cleaning us up here, making us look good. And it just takes the show to a next level. And you know, if you watch every week what we're trying to do out here, we're trying to get noticed. We're trying to get talked about. We're trying to get spread around. And the only way you do it is by having a production like JR brings to the table. And we're very happy to have him here at Jets Guru. And nobody else can have him. So, he's ours. I'm just playing. JR can do what he wants, but it's going to cost you some money, So we're out here doing big things. I hope you guys like the new format, how we've been doing it, making it more like a show, breaking it up into segments so it's more digestible. It's not a typical thing you see where you just have the people talking. And you know me, I like to talk a lot. Well, I have Christas sitting here on the side looking at me while I go on a 15-minute angry rant on something, or if I'm excited, talking for 20 minutes. And so, James, I appreciate it. And that's what we're trying to do. The only way we get there is by you guys sharing, you guys continuing to watch, listen to the Jets audio podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts. We got it on there. And so, hey, we're out here trying to grind. And listen, the Jets are out here trying to grind too. And they're getting me so excited, guys. And I try to, 2 years ago, I decided to temper my expectations about the New York Jets because there's always an expectation, right? Oh, well, the Jets are going to win 8 games this year. They're going to win 10 games this year. They're going to compete with Buffalo. And then each year, the expectation falls. Each year an injury happens. Each year we hire the wrong coaching staff. And, I don't want to be let down as a fan like that. And I could give you guys a straight and narrow take about the New York Jets at all times. But in my heart, I'm still thinking we're going to win every game, and I have to temper my expectations a little bit. This is a completely new team. This is a rebuild from the ground up. with a little bit extra sprinkled upon it. And I was just talking to Ramon about this before I got on the show, and we were discussing it, and we were talking about how it's a true rebuild, but we got a little bit something extra because as bad as Mac was as a GM for the New York Jets, he did leave the cap situation in such a place where you didn't have too many crazy contracts that you had to work through. And there was a lot of money year to year being transferred over because of those contracts. And Joe then took those contracts and said, you know what, I'm not going to overpay for people who don't meet the value at the position. And that's how you wind up getting those extra picks from Seattle. And that's how you wind up building as a football team. We heard from Joe Douglas, day one practically, how we want to build our football team, he said, is through the draft. And it makes total sense because you're not going to hit on every free agent, just like you're not going to hit on every draft pick, but you're going to have more opportunities to do so. And they're going to be there for longer, and they're going to be there on a good salary. So if you do need to reach and go get a piece to put you over the edge, to protect the blind side of your quarterback, to get a dynamic receiver on the outside, you could do so because you don't have misplaced money. You have money placed and league average where it belongs. A receiver makes this to this. A safety makes that to that. And I understand that there's some players that outperform these position monetary, dollar signs, but it's rare from a safety position to do that. Very, very rare. And we saw it with Seattle last year, a way better team than the New York Jets. Still couldn't go out there and close the deal. How much does a safety really change the game when you still need to work on your offensive line, when the rest of your defense is starting to crumble and wasn't what it was? And I think Joe Douglas is looking ahead and seeing those same things. He didn't know necessarily that he had to get rid of Sam Darnold, and he's thinking, I still got to sign Darnold, and I got to get this guy. Then I got to bring offensive weapons. We still have no offensive line. Let me scale back a little bit. Let me send Jamal somewhere. And he did the right thing. And if you look at Joe Douglas and what he does with his veteran players, he ships them to places where they can have success, or he tries his very best. You look at McClendon, you look at all these guys that he shipped out. He's trying to put them in scenarios where they have a better chance for themselves to win. And I think that sets a good message. And I think that is why they were trying to work so hard on bringing back Jamison Crowder, because everyone is out there on the pages online saying, we don't need Crowder. Look at Elijah Moore. And we got to address something right off rip here for Jets Guru. We're going to talk about two things, Crowder and Denzel Mims, in terms of how the OTAs are going. I'm super excited about Elijah Moore. Do not get me wrong, guys. I am super excited about Elijah Moore. One, it's OTAs. Okay, let me remind you, because everyone tends to remind me that's OTAs when it seems like you bring up any other player. But when it comes to Elijah Moore, for some reason, we've just gone completely gaga over the guy. And why not, right? The Jets haven't had a dynamic receiver in quite a bit of time. So I get it and I understand, right? But at the same time, a guy like Jamison Crowder with an elite inside route running ability, a guy who's sure hands, a guy who's one of the best route runners that has been in a Jet uniform in quite a bit of time. You only have him for one more year. You have a rookie in Elijah Moore. You have a second-year guy in Mims on the other side. Davis is already banged up a little bit. You have Keelan Cole, who's a rotational player most of his career. Joe Douglas is being smart here, okay? He is being very smart because he's realized what has happened to the New York Jet offense since his time. He's missing quarterbacks. He's missing receivers. He's missing tight ends. He's missing linebackers. He's missing everybody. So why not, in a year where money really doesn't matter, retain your veterans if you can? And I think that's why they were working so hard, because don't you think they know that they could cut Jamison Crowder at any time and really not have to, it doesn't mean anything to them? I think they're setting two examples here. One, they know that it's a depth league. And just like that, you could be down to your third and fourth receiver starting and not much depth after that. You got a rookie quarterback, and you do not want to make the same mistake that you did with Darnold. Actually, you want to overdo it. You want to try to find someone, a receiver at the bottom of the depth chart who can cover multiple roles for you, maybe even on special teams. So then that way you could keep an extra spot, right? And you can hold on to an extra receiver, because people say, well, Dan, if you have too many receivers, then somebody else loses a spot. So what? So what? Who is the most important piece on this New York Jets team? Zach Wilson, hands down. The Jets have not found a franchise quarterback since Joe Namath. Chad Pennington was close. A little bit more arm strength. He was close because that boy was accurate. Well, grown man was accurate. Okay? But we haven't had that. So Joe Douglas is looking like, not on my watch. You are not going to ruin my career. Not on my watch. Because Joe Douglas has seen what it takes. And so he wants to implement it here with the Jets. And so that's why he made that draft day trade for Vera Tucker to try to secure the left side. So when your quarterback is looking downfield, he's focused on what's in front of him, not what's over his shoulder, not what's behind him. You can't blame Joe Douglas on that left side of the line. If they fail next year, everyone is saying Vera Tucker is the best guard prospect, and he's really a tackle, but he's the best guard prospect in the draft. You got Becton, if he could stay healthy, is a monster on the left side. And so he is trying to make things easy for his quarterback. Depth at the wide receiver position. Lockdown on the left side so the quarterback can focus on his reads down the field and his movement and everything that's in front of him. He's trying to protect his quarterback by drafting Michael Carter Jr., by bringing in a nice rotational backfield with Tevin Coleman and retaining some of the current Jet backs that we liked that showed some promise. I'd rather have a deficiency on defense or lose a guy on defense that's at the bottom of the roster to make sure that I have Zach Wilson, an extra receiver, just in case someone's hurt. Because we know damn well that this receiver group is not making it the whole year without injury. I hope they do, but it's just very rare. It's a physical and fast game. People are going to get hurt. Another reason why Joe Douglas is taking care of Jamison Crowder is to show the veterans, not only that are in the Jets locker room, but new free agents that are coming in next year or in the offseason or whatever, that we take care of our own. That when we have a sloppy season and we have to get rid of our veterans, we send them to places where they might have a chance at success or a chance at a Super Bowl. We're going to try our best. Even if we don't get the value that we feel you're worth, we're going to try to help you out with that. Okay? And Anthony, there's not a lot from Yaboa as far as what I've seen looking around out there. I know Herndon had a bad drop today, led to interception. That kind of stuff is going to happen. Obviously, if he's going to want to make this team and have a role as Herndon, he's going to have to clean it up. I don't see there's any reason why he can't do that. You got to cut the kid a break. Listen, you see a tweet from Connor Hughes, and all of a sudden people are like, "Oh, we got to move on. We got to cut this guy. We got to relax a little bit." Herndon's a young tight end with good athletic ability that was led astray by a head coach that did not know how to game plan properly for the talent that was on the field, and that was evident. Because you saw how the quarterback, the running back, the receiver, the only one who really wasn't affected by Adam Gase, it seemed, was Jamison Crowder. It seemed like if you threw him the ball, he was there. If he was healthy, he was going to have a big game. And here's the thing about Jamison Crowder, and please, I think you guys are forgetting that when you feed him the ball, he will catch it. He is there. He is reliable. And so keeping a guy like Jamison Crowder, showing the veterans that you take care of your own, okay, it's perfect. And then you don't have to overexpose Elijah Moore. Now Elijah Moore could be that home run hitter that you want him to be because you're not overdoing it. He's a rookie. He's coming in. He's learning for the first time. Put him in packages where you spread him out outside and inside, end arounds, runs, whatever you want to do with him, but make it to where you spread it out. You also have Keelan Cole, who we spoke about last week, a guy who's capable of 700-800 yards receiving out of the slot because he's already done it. He already proved it. He's going to be a guy, rotational piece. When you see things like Mims didn't have a great OTA or you're seeing him take reps with the second team, guys, this doesn't mean that they don't believe in Mims. It doesn't mean that he's not even going to start. You don't know. It could be multiple reasons. He could be dealing with an injury and he's bringing himself back. He could be having some issues maybe in the tape room, bringing things down. Maybe they want to get these young guys some extra work. Who you don't know. Maybe coach rewards guys who play well, right? And so he's just feeding the hot hand, and that would make sense too, right? Doesn't mean that Mims isn't going to show up. So I'm perusing the Jets Guru. I mean, not the Jets Guru, New York Jets pages out there. And what I'm seeing is, oh, well, Mims is not really that very talented. And he this, that, and the third. You guys must be out of your mind. When I see Denzel Mims out there, I see a legit receiver. Now, we'll see how it looks, but he stood out to me last year. Pull up the tape on Denzel Mims when the ball was actually thrown to him. He showed the ability to go up at the top of the ball and go get it and bring it down. He showed the ability to make acrobatic catches using hip rotation on the sideline, tapping his feet and using his body position to get the ball in different spots. When the ball was, I can't tell you how many times, overthrown to the left, underthrown. It was all over the place because the quarterback's mechanics had broken down. The offensive line was one of the worst in the league. The coach didn't know about the game plan. I laughed when I saw that. So I started doing a little bit more digging because during the season I was doing it, and I forgot that how good Mims actually was. Mims was very productive. When he first came back against Joe Flacco, he was being used a little bit more properly. He was being used properly in the first half. In the second half, teams started to clamp down on what the Jets were doing. We know the Jets are notorious for not having good adjustments at the half. And we also know how bad Sam Darnold and that offensive line and that offense in general struggled. But when you look at Mims and his efficiency from game to game once he started, he's right there with the crop of other guys except for Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson blew everybody out of the water. But Mims was like fourth or fifth in his class, and he missed 5-6 games right off rip. You look at the numbers that Henry Ruggs had with Las Vegas. He played like 5 more games than Mims. If you look at Mims's averages and you gave him a full season of work, you're talking about in his rookie season, probably about a little over 700 yards. You're talking about a couple touchdowns, and you're talking about 50 receptions, okay? The Jets moved slowly as Sam Darnold came back. The Jets moved slowly back towards Crowder. If you watch the game tape, Sam's guy was Crowder. Sam Darnold was also a one-read quarterback by the time he left the Jets. He wasn't really scanning the field properly, which is why he had a lot of turnovers where he would just stare down one receiver down the middle of the field and would get picked off by a backer or a safety, or it would get broken up. So you got to look at these things. But when you look at how his tape looks, how he goes and gets the ball, he's right there. You look at his average yards per catch, 15.5. What is Jefferson's average yards per catch? 15.9. So he's right there. He just didn't have the load. You look at how many times Justin Jefferson, Ruggs, CeeDee Lamb, all these types of guys were thrown to. They were thrown to 120-something times they were targeted. Guess how many times Mims was targeted? 50? 45, something like that. So you're talking about a guy that's getting a quarter of the reps. If you easily give Mims those types of targets, you're talking about a 7, 8, 900-yard receiver. The Jets were god-awful. It was one of the worst offensive seasons I've seen from a Jet fan in a long time. And he was still able to show up, coming back from a hamstring injury, which is not easy to do because it kind of lingers all year. So I urge you guys to look at Mims and not just throw him away because Elijah Moore is having a great OTA. Great Elijah Moore, also lift up Mims as well because you haven't seen nearly enough to make that assumption on that young man because his actual NFL game tape, when you throw him the ball, he looks like a legit receiver to me. And we have a new offensive coordinator. We have a new scheme, new players, a new quarterback. And I expect the Jets to use him. The Jets drafted him in the 2nd round last year. I expect to use him. I expect Douglas and staff and company to use this guy. And listen, again, it's OTAs. So Wilson throws an interception. All of a sudden, I'm going to throw him out the window? Of course not. These guys are learning a new system. And a guy like Mims, who already came in late, is getting his feet wet. Okay? And by the way, Crowder should be back next week. Saleh said that Crowder should be returning next week, which means most likely the deal that they are going to put forth is probably going to get accepted if Crowder is looking to come back next week. So then there you have it. Your receiving group is whole. They're coming back. Crowder, Mims will be back shortly. He wasn't there, I think, today. And we're going to have a full gamut. I don't want to see any of these guys gone. You understand? This is really important for the New York Jets to have depth going into next year. Going into this year for Zach Wilson. And I want to see all these guys succeed. And we got to give him a chance. And just because a guy works with a second team doesn't mean he's not going to see a heavy workload. Because we all know in this offense and with this team, a lot of these guys, if not most of these guys, are going to get a lot of work. It's a young team. Guys are going to be hot at different times. So we have to remember that, and we have to stay calm when judging guys. Be fair, okay? Cutting Mims, getting rid of Mims. Mims isn't good enough because of some OTA tweets. Come on, guys. We got to do a little bit better than that. But speaking of OTAs, I know a lot of you guys have been asking questions. What's going on? What's going on? So I went through some tweets of some guys that actually have access on the field. I would love to have access to Jets training camp. If there's anyone that watches the show that knows somebody up above or knows somebody in the biz, I would love to be there asking questions and giving you guys some of the best Jets news that you could get out there. Some of the stuff that I saw was that Brent Boyer, special teams coach, said that Michael Carter and Elijah Moore, they get to the Jets facility at 6:30 every morning. And they're one of the first people to walk in the door and get some work. And you love to see that. These are high character guys. If you've noticed, Joe Douglas likes to draft captains. He likes to draft guys who have leadership. It transitions over to the field. I truly believe in that. And all this is reported by Connor Hughes as well. The reason why I like Connor is because I think he's honest in his assessment. I don't think he overdoes it. I don't think he's really all about the drama like you see for some other people. So when I read his tweets and I look at his work, I feel like I could trust his assessment because that's really what it is, guys. You know, you got to, when you look at your Jets information, make sure you're looking at people that do their homework and aren't trying to get or feed into the headlines, you know, and really try to look at what they're seeing on the field. Brad Boyer also said the kicking competition, they all have things that they need to improve. Guys, we spoke about this, the kicking competition, and how it's going to be really important for the New York Jets. I mean, field position is everything, especially for a young football team and a young quarterback. You might have some stalled drives moving up the field. You got a nice field goal kicker out there who can make some kicks. You know, it alleviates some pressure. You know, those kicks can add up 3, 6, 9 points. You know, if you look at the NFL, you lose by 7 or less. There's your win right there. And so I think it's really important for them to do that as well. Tevin Coleman has nothing but nice things to say about Wilson, saying he's a beast. A lot of the problems that Wilson has been having, it seems, out there, especially today, had to do with drops. Elijah Moore they said is nearly unstoppable. That's what they're saying about Elijah Moore in the red zone and pretty much all over the field from everything I've seen, not just from Connor, but from most people that are actually being able to get some visuals and watch them play. They're saying that this guy is just unbelievable. That's really honestly what they're saying. And if this is the truth, I can't be more excited. Again, more depth for our quarterback, more opportunities for our quarterback. We spoke about Chris Herndon, brutal pass that was picked off by Hassel, I guess. But listen, it's going to happen. It happens all over the field. You just can't stack them together. That's how you wind up losing your job. Let's see, situational drills, 11 on 11. Both drives are converted for first downs. So, I mean, listen, Jameson Crowder expected back in minicamp next week. So, listen, everything is looking good. Obviously, everyone's excited. It's the first year. You know, it's one of those things where get excited about what you hear. Because anytime a player is doing good things against professionals and his first taste of, I guess, NFL action, you got to love it. But also take it with a grain of salt because they're learning a new playbook. They're learning each other. They're going to make mistakes. You're going to try things maybe you wouldn't try during a game just to see if it works, just to see if your guys could do it. Just to see how it works and it breaks down. So it's one of those things where I'm super excited about this Jets team, but at the same time, we have to have some clarity when talking about OTAs and making sure we don't overdo it and wind up getting crazy out there like conspiracy theories on who's going to play and who's not, you know. But with that being said, let's go ahead and bring Krista in for Krista's Corner, JR. and we'll start getting into what she's talking about, which happens to be, if I'm not mistaken, Krista, you're talking about Mr. Carl Lawson, right?
Yep, I got to talk about an Auburn player every so often because even though I'm a big Alabama fan, Roll Tide, I have to go and dive deep against my enemy that's now a part of our New York Jets.
Absolutely. So what did you find out about Carl Lawson? What can you tell us about Carl Lawson? Because he's so new to the team, and he's kind of a guy that you didn't hear, not a big name guy, worked his way up every year that he's been on the field. So what can you tell us about Carl Lawson the Jet fans may not know about, and what he could bring to the table this year?
I'm quite familiar with Carl Lawson, being a big fan of the SEC and Auburn. You know that his speed pops off. He's able to get pressure onto the quarterback. That's nothing new. He's been doing it since college. You need 2 to 3 guys to block this guy. And you'd be pretty surprised about Carl Lawson's production in the NFL, but it doesn't tell the whole tale. That's why I'm not a big fan of Pro Football Focus and guys like that go by stats only, because it doesn't tell the whole picture of what Carl Lawson is as a player. If you look at Carl Lawson's tape, even though he doesn't have as many sacks, and he only has 20 career sacks, he's always around the quarterback wreaking havoc, and that's nothing new. He's been doing it since the college days of the SEC, and he fits this defense very, very well. He's not just an overpriced guy that we're so used to former GMs just throwing money and we have no place for him. Carl Lawson legit has a place for this defensive line, and he fits this defensive scheme very well. He fits the 4-3. And what I like about Carl Lawson is that he fits that pass rusher that the Jets desperately need. And I know that's so cliche to say because we've been needing a pass rusher since John Abraham. But Carl Lawson is the guy. You have Quentin Williams on the inside. You have Foley Fulikowski. You have John Franklin Myers. You have Nathan Shepard. You have so much depth at the defensive line that you don't have that guy that can get down in the middle. And Carl Lawson brings the speed that the Jets desperately need. He's able to get to the quarterback while Quentin Williams is able to take on a double triple team. And for offensive, you actually have to game plan for Carl Lawson, because if you're not covering Quentin Williams, you have to cover Carl Lawson. If you're not covering Carl Lawson, you have to cover someone else in that defensive line. And not to take any credit from the Cincinnati Bengals, because I know the Bengals also have defensive line talent, but the Jets, I feel, have more talent where Carl Lawson could really thrive. And Carl Lawson, don't be mistaken, Carl Lawson was a great key piece for the Bengals, and the Bengals are greatly going to miss that young man and that defense, because he was the guy that really held that defense. He was one of those key pieces, and I'm so happy to have him. And what I also like about Carl Lawson is he loves football. He studies the game. If you read the OTA reports, he's actually sending workout tapes to the defensive coordinator. I apologize. I can't say the defensive coordinator's name. If you're new here, I'm great at botching people's names. That's why I'm not saying the guy's names, because I know if I botch someone's name, someone's going to go tweet and say that's not how you say his name. I promise I will learn everyone's name by time the season starts. I should know everyone's name. So, yeah, Carl Lawson on the Jets is going to be a treat. And for Jet fans, I know that the stats of him may be not what you expect, but really dig into his tape, because the stats of this young man doesn't tell the whole picture. He's always around the quarterback. He's always getting pressure. He's always wreaking havoc. And I truly believe with Carl Lawson's talent, he can get 10-plus sacks. I know that might be bold to say because we haven't had a 10-plus sack guy on the Jets in quite a while. But when you have a guy like Quentin Williams helping to get the double triple team, and you have the talent that the Jets have in defensive line, I really think that's possible. I think that the Jets are going to be able to mask what the problems that we have at cornerback by having a guy like Carl Lawson, adding that speed to the defensive line. Now, the other key piece is who's going to play next to him, whether it's Zuniga, but Carl Lawson's a great start to fixing the pass rushing situation that the Jets desperately need.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why he was brought here. And we speak about it all the time with Saleh, how when they called these guys to recruit them, they didn't say, oh, we're just going to give you money and turn you loose. It was like, we want you here specifically because we think that you fit the system and what we're trying to do. And when you look at Carl Lawson, he applied more pressure, than any other defensive lineman with 32 quarterback hits in the 2020 season. So this is a guy that has been increasing his load, but not just increasing his load. He's been performing as well. It's a guy that started from the bottom, worked his way all the way up. And, when you have a guy like that that's constantly putting pressure on the quarterback, because here's the thing, sacks are great. They're lovely. And, I would rather have a guy who puts pressure on the quarterback consistently and might miss out on some sacks than a guy who's going to pop once or twice a game, get that sack, and it's going to look pretty, but he's not bringing it every single play. Lawson's coming with a wheelhouse, and he's coming with a type of authority that I think the Jet fans are really, really going to enjoy. And I have to actually thank Robert Hernandez, who is doing our research for the Jets. For the Jets Guru, we're testing him out, and he came up with some awesome facts and different things like that about Carl Lawson. I mean, this is a guy who comes from a football family. His dad played football. It's in his blood, and this is a guy who has had to grind and work and have a chip on his shoulder his whole career. And if you look at some of the players that the Jets are bringing in, and they're high character guys, they're guys that are captains, they're guys who've had a chip on their shoulder, guys who are ready to take that next step, and I really, really do love what they're piecing together for the New York Jets. So is there anything else that you have for us on Lawson, Krista, or is that just about it?
That pretty much sums up what I have on Carl Lawson. The fact that I think that he's just reaching his peak, and then he came to the New York Jets. And I think the fact that the Jets have the talent at defensive line, I think that could really help push Carl Lawson to the next level, especially with the defensive scheme that we have in play as well.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for all the information, Krista. Really appreciate it, and can't wait to see you next week. And also, we're going to have Krista on Jets World as well when we get that started, where she'll have her own little section that you can go see on Thursdays when it's our day to post on the Jets World. So thanks again, Krista, and we will see you next week. But listen, guys, I mean, Lawson, Rankins, all these guys, even Curry, to bring in these types of veteran guys that have been around, guys that have experience, and fill up that offensive line with the ones that have already here. I mean, I think the Jets are going to have a really good rotational defensive line. I think the linebacker situation is something that you got to watch. Got to see if Davis takes that next step. A lot of people were down on that signing, saying, hey, we don't really know if this is the middle linebacker for us. But listen, they trust this guy. One of the first additions that they brought in, they think they can really push Davis to the next level. You got a couple outside linebackers that were drafted as safeties, but they're going to convert to the outside. This should give the Jets some range and out there as well. And you also get a guy where if you're getting that pressure up front, you now have backers who used to play safety that have the skill and the ability to make plays at the outside linebacker position too, and also keep up with some of these fast tight ends and backs. I mean, it's really, really hard for those big uglies out there on the outside. The traditional outside linebacker is changing. These guys are, just as fast. They're becoming just as fast as these running backs and receivers, it seems, because you have to be. You have to be able to track guys. You have to be able to cover in this league. It's a passing league. And, we'll see what the Jets are able to do, what they're able to put together on defense. They went heavy on offense this offseason, but man, it was needed. The Jets haven't went heavy on offense in a long time, and I was happy to see them do that and get this young man Wilson on a rebuilding year, a good start. I mean, when you look at, and when ultimately I think you look at the New York Jets this year, I think the Jets are going to be one of those teams that provided their rookie with some of the best starting things to begin with. You're talking about half your offensive line secure, maybe more. I mean, if the Jets bring in Moses, we're talking about Jets additions. They just bring in Blair, a guy that Saleh really loves. Moses is out there. The reports, right tackle, he would definitely play, for Fant, and then Fant can move to guard. And so, now he's never played guard, but you also have to remember something about Fant that I think that is kind of underrated, is that they actually played Fant at tight end in certain packages in Seattle. And so it just adds more depth. And I just love the way they just kind of put this offense together. I love the fact that they got Davis, who's a nice blocking wide receiver, physical receiver. I like that. You have Mims. They went heavy with Moore. They brought in Keelan Cole right away. They retained Jamison Crowder. Like I said, rotational backs. This is a really good start for a guy, I think, coming right out of college. I think the Jets have done a good job. You look around the league at some of the other starters, and you can't look at their offenses and say, oh, well, they're set up better than the New York Jets. But when you look at every single, outlook for the season, they have Zach Wilson at the bottom out of all the rookie quarterbacks. You know that's Jets hate, right, guys? It has nothing to do with Zach Wilson, because I guarantee you if Zach Wilson was drafted by the 49ers, he would be ahead of everyone else but Trevor Lawrence. It's just a simple fact that he's on the New York Jets. But from all reports that I've seen, Wilson looks comfortable. He's showing that skill set for the reason why they drafted him. He has a plethora of weapons to start out with. I think you can't really ask much from a team that won 2 games last year, and really to me were worse than the Jaguars, should have been the worst team in the league. You can't ask for, I think, a better start on paper to your career than what Wilson is getting right now. You have a solid head coach that believes in his players, is respected around the league. He's not walking into the Adam Gase situation, bug eyes in the conference. He's walking in a hot coaching candidate that was going to be brought in by some organization this year. You have a coordinator that most likely, if the Jets do well, won't be around in 2 years. Another guy from a tree, from a system that's had success in this league recently. Can't wait to see what he puts together and add his little touches. So Wilson is walking into a very good situation, and I don't think that the Jets are getting enough credit for that, for really trying to give him as much support as possible. Because you remember, Joe Douglas didn't draft Sam Darnold. And you could have said he could have done a lot better, like retaining Robbie Anderson, which he admitted was a mistake. He should have kept Robbie Anderson, these types of things. But for a guy that's starting off with his guy and it's becoming more of his roster, I think he really couldn't ask too much of him. And, with that, we're going to get a little bit more on Joe Douglas. So let's bring in Ramon for Jets Attack. And he's going to be talking about Joe Douglas a little bit, because he kind of goes under the radar sometimes with all the moves and with all the craziness, when Adam Gase was here and how awful the Jets were playing. But he is a guy that's been around a long time, has experience around this league, and has been around some of the best. So Ramon, tell us a little bit more about Joe Douglas and how you feel he's building this team and putting it together.
So I'm not a betting man, but if I was, I put all my money on Joe. I didn't know what to really expect when he came in. I just knew he came from a winning franchise. Digging deeper into his life, he started out his career as a coach. Then he started moving up into scouting. That's where you want your GM at, man. Your GM is supposed to be the SME, the subject matter expert when it comes to personnel, and that's what Joe Douglas is. He's always going to make the right moves. But just to keep going, what I was saying, man, like, he started out as a head coach, and he started moving into scouting a little bit. Then he went to the Baltimore Ravens, and he's responsible for the Joe Flacco pick. He's responsible for the C.J. Mosley pick. He played a hand in winning a 2013 championship by being over the personnel and being there as a national scout. He knows what winning is. He knows what a winning environment feels like. So when he walks in, that's why last year, if you've seen those pictures of Joe Douglas when he's sitting up in the booth and the Jets are just getting blasted, he's not just upset that they're losing. He's upset because he knows what that environment is like. He knows that that's not what we need to win. He won a championship in 2013. He then turns around again and he wins another championship in 2018. Being a part of the Philadelphia Eagles, which that was their – whoever thought that the Eagles would win a championship, right? They had been close a couple times, especially with McNabb and Terrell Owens, but whoever thought that they would win a championship? Nobody did, right? Nobody would have picked them to win it that year. Nobody would have picked them to win a championship with a backup quarterback, right? But Joe Douglas worked his magic when it came to the personnel. He knew what he needed, and as Dan said earlier, you have to have depth, and depth is extremely important. At the quarterback spot, I know he's still looking. Give him some time. He's going to do what he's got to do because he knows what it means and what it takes to win, guys. He's doing everything he can for Zach Wilson right now. The biggest mistake he's ever made, like Dan said earlier, was the Robbie Anderson mistake of not bringing him back. He's admitted that, but that's the only thing you really have on him. That's the only thing you have that you can really say that he did wrong. I mean, people can guess and they can say, I'm not going to say any names, but they could talk about the quarterback position. But we're really going to see at the end of this year. This is probably the best, and we've all got it. It's a scary feeling to have. But this is the best we've felt about the Jets team. And who do you thank for that? You think Joe Douglas. He did all the things. He made all the hardest decisions. How hard was it to not pay Jamal Adams when he's just balling? He was lights out. People were calling him the best strong safety in the NFL at a point in time. How hard do you think it was for Joe Douglas to just be like, you know what? I'm not going to pay him. There was not one person in the world except Joe Douglas was thinking, just get rid of Jamal Adams. Trade him. Field calls. Everyone was saying, like, you don't take calls on Jamal Adams. You don't take calls on Aaron Donald, right? You don't take it. Joe Douglas was the only person, and this is why I call him the king of personnel. He was the only person to be able to tell us he's not worth what you guys think he's worth. He said it without saying it. He told, I'm taking calls on Jamal Adams all day. He doesn't take calls on Q. He admitted it. He doesn't take calls on Q. Q, we're not selling Q. He's not going anywhere. He's staying. He clarified that. When Q started, he was on Twitter talking to his agent. Hey, we need to get out of here. They're trying to trade. No, we're not trying to trade you. You're here forever. We're not letting you go, right? He proved that to us. So Joe Douglas is the guy that he'll find the right home for a player like he did our previous quarterback, like he did Jamal Adams. He's putting everybody in the right places, right? He's not just taking guys and shipping them off to, I'm not going to name any teams, but he's not shipping them off to places where they don't fit, places where they won't be happy. He's doing the justice for both parties involved. And that's my favorite thing about Joe Douglas is I don't feel like he leaves a sour taste in people's mouths outside of Jamal Adams. He was just upset. But we got 2 first-round picks. We traded Sam Darnold, right? And we got the same compensation that they got for Julio Jones. And I know he's 33 years old. He's a wide receiver. He's not a quarterback. But you got the same compensation that they got for a top 3 wide receiver when he's playing, when he's healthy. He's top 3, hands down. One of the best to ever do it, right? Just a monster. He was a monster at Alabama. He was a monster in Atlanta, and he's going to be a monster where he is now, right? And you got the same compensation you did for a quarterback that had been going through injuries. He didn't get a lot of, we know the specifics. We're not going to go into that. This isn't that subject today. But he got the same compensation for that. You got to give Joe Douglas props, man. He is lights out. When we look back, this is where I'm going to end it. When we look back, I can guarantee you can save this, screen record it, guys. I'm still going to be here, God willing. Joe Douglas will be the best thing that has happened to the Jets in a very, 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 very long time, if not ever, right? I mean, I know we're going to say Joe Namath, back in the day, but I'm talking about recent times because not all of us are of age to have seen Joe Namath play. So Joe, I'm telling you, Joe Douglas will be the best thing that has happened to the Jets, and you'll have even if we win a Super Bowl with Robert Saleh, you will or whoever we win it with, you will have to always look back and be like, Joe Douglas is the reason that the Jets are an actual franchise, a competing franchise. Guys that they look at us and they're like, it's no longer like, oh, it's the Jets, that's a win. They're going to be looking, they're going to be like, damn, we're going to have to go in here, we're going to have to fight tooth and nail. We're going to have to figure out what we're doing. Their game plan is crazy. It's going to be like a healthy 49ers team, guys. Just like a healthy 49ers team. It was great that he finally went all offense because what were people saying? Right? Oh, we got to go defensive end. We need an edge rusher. We got to go receiver. We need a receiver right now. He got you a receiver, guys. He got you offense. When is the last time the Jets pick offense? Who else is tired of us picking defensive linemen year after year after year after year? It was a point in time where I was just like, I know we're picking. Doesn't matter who's the best candidate or who's the best prospect in the draft. I know who we're picking. Joe Douglas will be the guy that everybody will look back on, and you will say, hey, I'm glad we picked Joe Douglas. He knows what winning is. You need a winning environment, and now we have the coaching staff that he put together that will get us to the promised land, guys. So stay tuned. That's all I got for Jets Attack. I'm going to turn it back over to Dan. But I'm telling you, if you got your money and you're on Robinhood and it says Joe Douglas, put your name, put your money on it. Put your money on it because the stock's going up, baby.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to me, the first thing that kind of opened my eyes about Joe Douglas is when he brought in Burgess Jr. I mean, he brought this guy in off the scrap heap. And remember, Joe Douglas didn't build that team. That was Mack and that was Gase. And then when Mack got fired and they brought Joe in, there was very little he could do at that point to really help the team other than sign, guys who were free agents at the time. And he brings Burgess Jr. in. And he winds up leading the team in tackles the rest of the way out because this guy was a scout. He's a player guy. He knows the ins and outs of the game. This isn't a cap guy. This isn't a guy who has a finance degree and is sitting here trying to fix numbers. This is a guy who's been in and out of football teams from the very bottom and worked his way all the way up. Not to say that numbers guys don't do that either, but it's a little bit different when you're in the scouting department and you have to go out there and evaluate players from more than just what the stats are, from more than just what the paycheck is going to be, but from how they look from play to play, how their motor is, the fine twitch muscle movements that they make at the line, their technique, their mental makeup, their leadership, all these things that Joe has seen and had to do. This is a guy in Joe Douglas that I used to knock on doors and give people pink slips to get cut. He's seen reactions from players. He's seen the worst and the best. He's been in and out of film rooms. You look at a guy like Robert Saleh, started off as quality control type of guys who look at tape and just all they do is go through tape and try to find individual matchups, try to find technique flaws, try to find ways to fix players, and then bring their perspective to the meeting, to the room. So these guys that the Jets have been bringing in are football guys. And the good thing about the Jets, it's kind of like the Jets are bringing in executives and coaches who are like the next wave of guys who are sought after. Like Joe Douglas, who's like the next wave of GMs that were going to be tabbed, and we're basically like the next guys up are going to be plucked out to see if they could be great GMs. Saleh, LaFleur, all these guys were guys that are right on the edge of being plucked by a team because it was their time to get a chance. So the Jets are getting some of the best that's available. You can't hurt this franchise, right? You can't talk bad about this franchise right now for at least effort. Now, let's see what happens when the games get underway, but you can't fault them for the effort here. And it starts all the way at the top, and that's all we ever asked for is Jet fans, is clarity from the top all the way down, and we finally got that in the offseason. And remember on Jets Guru, I told you guys, this is not going to work unless the owner comes out before they do anything and says that Joe Douglas is going to hire our head coach. Obviously, everyone's going to be involved, but he's going to make the ultimate decision. And the staff is going to be able to pick their own coaches because that's how we lost Matt Rule the last time, which ultimately most likely pushed Darnold out. I believe if Rule was here, we probably don't even go this route, but maybe this is destiny. Maybe this is the way that it winds up helping the Jets in the long term, but I just love the way that this guy goes out and does what he says he's going to do. He talked about the offensive line last year. He brought in 5 new guys to change this team around, 4 new guys to change this team around. And it didn't necessarily work on the offensive line, but he did find Becton, and now he finds Vera Tucker. You find Fan, who's all right for the right tackle. Maybe they bring in Moses. Maybe Fan slides to guard. McGovern should play better at center because he has better guards on the outside. So the Jets are taking those incremental steps. Remember, Joe finally got to touch the roster for the first time last offseason. Now this is his second true go-around to touch the roster. So we could be a little bit more critical of his talent this year because it's becoming more of his team. But I think as this goes on, you see the type of free agents that they're bringing in just to fill in the gaps. You see how they're drafting, how they're moving up and down the board to fit needs, to get players that fit their system. I really like what Joe Douglas is bringing to the table. And I think as Jet fans, you got to be happy with the effort that this franchise has given this offseason. You have to love the actual moves that they've made, I believe, in the offseason and on paper here in the draft. And we'll see how it all comes together. But the expectations, again, should be this is a rebuilding team coming off of a 2-win season. Although they did not have the first pick in the draft, they certainly played like it. And honestly, I still think the Jaguars would have beat us last year if they would have played us. I think that we were the worst team in the league last year from many different facets. Not just the way that we played the game, but the way that the coach was acting and responding to things. The fact that you had those injury situations that still lingered where people weren't trusting the Jets training staff about what they were telling them on injuries. All this type of stuff we want out the door. The GM and the coach getting players and drafting players who the coach doesn't want, and the coach not switching the playbook around for the talent that's there, all out of the window now. We have guys from the top all the way down to the bottom who are all on the same page. And that Forget about wins this year. That alone is going to set the table for everything that happens in the future. And I believe that the New York Jets have done the right thing. We'll see how it looks on the field. It's not going to be easy. The AFC is stacked. The AFC is stacked with quarterbacks. This is not the Jets' time. And just like the 76ers, remember how they were so bad for all those years after Iverson, and they kept getting draft picks and collecting, and they said, trust the process, and they did get better. Ultimately, they're not good enough, in my opinion, to win the championship. But if the Jets do the right things, they'll have their time. You look at when the Jets were good with Rex Ryan. You look at when they were good before that with Bill Parcells. You'll have your time. You just do the right things. You piece the team together. Now, when your time comes, you may not be good enough, right? There may be a team, when it's their time, it's just a little bit better than you. But I believe what they're building here is going to give the Jets a shot at getting better and eventually competing for this division. The Bills aren't going to be in first place forever. They're going to have to retain some of these guys that they're bringing in, including paying Josh Allen a hefty salary. So he's going to have to prove that he could do it more on his own than he's ever done coming up soon. The Dolphins' time, they're starting to slide up, right? They're starting to come up. We'll see what they do over the next 2 to 3 years. You have the Patriots, who threw a lot of unnecessary money, kind of overpaying, but they want to get back to some things. I don't see them really doing some damage over the next 2 to 3 years. And then you have the Jets, to me, who are the bottom of the division, right? Who, right as Wilson should really be getting going around year 2 or so, this team is going to have a shot around year 3 to compete. Because I think that either the Buffalo Bills, if Josh Allen takes that next step over the next 2 to 3 years, will be the guys that we need to take out, and the Dolphins not too far behind. So if the Jets do what they're supposed to do, they're going to have their shot because they're going to be ascending on talent, draft picks with good cap money. So the Jets are going to be able to bring in a player next year, okay, to round out this team. Now, you got to hope that the drafting, the free agent guys, the veterans that you bring in kind of seal the holes a little bit more. So then when you go into the draft next year, with 2 first rounders, when you go into the draft next year, you can get guys like, wow, let's get this stud linebacker. Let's get this stud defensive end. Like whatever it is, cornerback, whatever you need. And I think when you look at this roster and how it's put together, if they do the right things, you could see that happening. It's not a lot of room on the offense for another player unless you're getting up into the next tier of player. And that's what you want, right? That's how you looked at the Ravens all these years. You look at their young linebackers, they let their backers go. Another guy slides right in because you have the depth. The pressure isn't there to just step in and be the king right away because you have a veteran in front of you. And as that veteran transitions out, a new guy slides back in. When you run an organization, when everyone's on the same page from top to bottom, more likely than not, you're going to get more results that are trending towards the good side of things than the bad. When there's confusion, when everyone has a say and there's no leadership, things start to break down and it trickles down into everything. The Jets have always made a lot of decisions based on headlines, based on we got to compete with the New York market, with the Giants. You look at just some of the moves that they brought in, like bringing Tebow in, which distracted Sanchez. You had stuff with Chad Pennington, that. It seems like every time you remove Pennington, Favre comes in. It kind of just, it kills little bits of yourself when you do things trying to chase. And that's why I was so excited to see the Jets finally start from the bottom this time and really dedicate themselves to rebuilding themselves from the bottom on up, from the organizational tier on down. And I think as Jet fans, we just got to be excited right now. Not overdo it, 10, 11, I said 12 wins. Come on, guys, slow down, right? But I believe that they're taking the steps, and I believe that you'll watch enjoyable Jets football because I'm coming into the season with no expectations other for the simple fact is I want Zach Wilson to do well. This staff should have this kid moving in the right direction if you're supposed to be what you're supposed to be. The Jets have enough, it seems, on paper to be able to have a productive rookie season for their quarterback, not in wins, but in the progression within the playbook and the style of play, becoming who you are. Like, Who are the Jets going to be? And this is the question that I leave you guys before I go. And I want you guys to think about it nice and hard before you answer, right? Who are the Jets going to be is what is really going to set the table for this team moving forward. Are they going to be more of a running team, play action? Are they going to open it up and sling the ball down the field? Who is this team going to be over the next year or two? So as they start to grow, they pick up more pieces that fit the puzzle to what they're trying to do and ultimately have success. And so that's what's so exciting is we don't know, right? Zach Wilson can go out there and be the next coming of Patrick Mahomes, and we're sitting there like, oh my God, we did it. We did it. I can't believe it. Somehow we got it. We got it right? Or they could be a running team, right? He could be more of a West Coast, don't make too many mistakes, get the ball where it needs to be type of quarterback. We don't know, and that's why it makes it so nervous and so fun because it's so exciting. It's new. It's a new toy, and they can't hate on us right now too much because no one's played. So what I say to you guys, enjoy this season, just like we did with McCown a few years ago when the Jets were supposed to win, 1 or 2 games? He won 5, and Robbie Anderson and I forgot his name on the other side, almost had 1,000 yards together. Like, enjoy that, right? Don't be upset when the Jets lose or get blown out by a Chiefs type of a team. It's going to happen, right? But what we want to see is incremental changes moving forward. And so, listen, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I really can't ask for much more, only for the simple fact if you guys can share our program. We don't curse. We don't talk politics. We try to stay out of drama and try to stick to headlines that represent the talent on the team and what they can bring to the table, not so much of what's going on behind the scenes because we're not there. I don't know these players. I'm not in the locker room, and so I'm not going to try to act like I am and try to throw things on people that are not, truthfully reported. So we try our best to get the best information we can. Got to thank Robert Hernandez once again for all the great information behind the scenes, gathering information on players for our program. And listen, we're going to keep building this thing. There's one thing about myself that I learned just a couple years ago, and I wish I knew my whole life because who knows where I could have been. But I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to stop. I'm going to keep going until someone looks at me and says, this kid, this guy, this man, whoever he is, he's got something. And I want to bring him to the table and see what he can bring, right? And I think that's for all of us out there, no matter what it is, what you're trying to accomplish, what you're trying to achieve. Don't let anybody try to stop you from your goals. The only people that could stop you is yourself, because don't fall into the traps of believing what people have to say. Believe in yourself. Keep moving forward even when it looks bad, right? Because at the end of the day, the bad times will come, but the good times will come too. Don't let your highs be too high. Don't let your lows be too low. Stay focused on your goals, people. Stay focused on your goals, and you will achieve what you need to. Never give up. Let somebody take you off this earth before they take you away from your dreams. Do you understand that? Look at me. Do you understand? So with that being said, I'm going to kick it over to JR. He's going to give you some old vintage Jets highlights to make your heart feel nice and warm. And I will see you guys next Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern time, Lord willing. Be safe out there. Take care of your family and your friends. Call someone you haven't spoke to in a while. We are a Jets family. Jets, 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 Jets.
The 1999 season began for the Jets as a quest for the organization's second ever Super Bowl appearance. Nothing less would do, as New York had a veteran head coach, brilliant defensive coordinator, and one of the top running games in the league. The defense had a mix of old and young talent, and the pair of wideouts they had were top-notch, with few teams boasting a tandem like Keyshawn Johnson and Wayne Corbett. Most importantly, a veteran quarterback who could get them the ball and presumably the Jets over the hump. So on the opening game of the season, on the opening drive, when Vinny Testaverde hit this touchdown pass to Richie Anderson, more seemed right for the New York Jets than at any time since 1968. Then this happened.
Here's Martin again, lost the football and covered it again. And holding his leg on the ground is Vinny Testaverde.
Well, the way he's beating that turf, it's not good news for the New York Jets.
Vinny knew it immediately. He had torn his Achilles. 1 quarter, season over, both for Testaverde and possibly Parcells' football team. But before anyone could get to the gloom and doom of the rest of the year, there were 3 quarters of a football game to be played today. Parcells had elected to only activate 2 quarterbacks, with Testaverde being one of them, and his full-time punter, Tom Tupa, the other. Now, in fairness, Tupa had played quarterback regularly in college, but he was a punter now. If Parcells chose to play his emergency quarterback, Rick Meyer, Tupa could no longer stay in the contest. You see the dilemma. Well, then, something crazy happened.
He made his backup quarterback, Rick Meyer, number 3.
Tupa has time, throws for the end zone, has a man, touchdown!
The punter, Tupa, was not done making plays, even showing off his mobility.
That's Tom Tupa's shoes you're looking at. Those are punter shoes. Look at that. Left foot, that looks like a slipper. The right foot is one you kick with.
Tupa rolls out, throws, has a man open, Keyshawn Johnson complete, first down and more. Midfield, knocked out of bounds inside the 35-yard line.
But the Cinderella story of the punter that could save the opener, maybe even the season, hit a little snag.
Tupa, and is going to get creamed from behind by Willie McGinnis. On the blitz, Tupa, that's a fumble. Bouncing toward the end zone, and that's a New England touchdown. Under the gun, down he goes. Willie McGinnis.
So just when the broadcast booth pushed the idea of Tupa exiting, the punter turned quarterback decided not to shank this opportunity.
I think it was a risk keeping Tom Tupa in there.
5 wide receivers again. Keyshawn Johnson again. He's got it. He has running room. Lawyer Malloy trying to close the distance and pushes him out of bounds. Tupa over the middle. Touchdown.
A 2-point conversion here would pull Tupa's team within 3 points. In this area, the man owned much experience. Actually, the first such experience in NFL history.
Then the last couple of years has sort of disappeared. The fake. And the 2-point conversion, the first of the season for the Browns, is good. Tom Tupa, the holder, and a backup quarterback.
Yeah, that was kind of awesome. But no dice on Tupa's attempt to cut the lead to 3 here. With the 3rd quarter now coming to an end, Parcells made a fateful decision. NFL rules allowed for Tupa to stay in the game as a punter if Parcells didn't go to his emergency quarterback until the 4th quarter. So once the final period kicked off, the Tuna kicked Tupa out and inserted Meyer at quarterback. Oh boy. The offense under Meyer wasn't able to put it in the paint, so naturally, New York turned to the punter again.
So John Hall will tee this one up from 33 yards out. No, it's a fake. Tupa on the run, pulls the first down yardage. Did he get there?
No, it looks like he's short.
He didn't get there.
Just short.
Tough break. So that's it for this crazy 1999 opener, right? Not exactly.
On first down, he's going to throw over the middle, intercepted. Brian Cox, touchdown.
Now protecting a 1-point lead, the Jets defense stepped up again, forcing a quick Patriots punt. Meyer did the unthinkable next, though.
Meyer over the middle, popped up into the air and intercepted. Chris Slade picked off the ball, and the Patriots have the football in Jet territory.
The Pats capitalized on Meyer's mistake, moving 44 yards to set up Adam Vinatieri for a game-winning attempt.
And it's good.
Remember, that's Adam Vinatieri pre-Patriots dynasty, making field goals, winning games 18 years ago, and ending one of the craziest openers you'll ever see. And it's also the best passing effort we've seen from a punter in a long time. But this game resonated far beyond the arm or leg of Tom Tupa. During a season that many would call Bill Parcells' best ever coaching job, the Tuna benched Meyer while coaxing an incredible 8-8 record out of his team with an undrafted free agent nobody ever heard of at quarterback.
Lucas to the 5, touchdown, untouched, Ray Lucas.
Had the Jets won the opener against the Patriots, New York would have been in the playoffs. Even with that loss, a catch by Wayne Corbett here could have sent Parcells' pesky squad to the postseason as well. And what had to be an exhausting, frustrating campaign for the 58-year-old head coach, Parcells decided to call it a career in coaching after the season. He took a job upstairs with the organization, knowing he had groomed the perfect replacement to coach the Jets. In an even weirder twist, the Patriots fired their head coach, despite the fact that he had taken the team to 2 straight playoff appearances in his first 2 seasons. That guy ended up doing all right.
Your Seahawks, Super Bowl 48 champions.
So that meant there was another coaching vacancy in the AFC East. Now, these two storylines met at that one spot in the universe where a press conference couldn't get any weirder.
Due to the various uncertainties surrounding my position as it relates to the team's new ownership, I've decided to resign as the head coach of the New York Jets. I have to do what I'm comfortable doing and what I feel is the right thing for Bill Belichick.
Well, thank you. Hopefully this press conference will go a little better than the last one I had.
So, if Testaverde never got hurt, would the '99 Jets have made it to the Super Bowl? Would Parcells have resigned? Better yet, would Belichick have been offered the Patriots position? Who knows? As for Tupa, the punter turned would-be hero, who threw 2 touchdowns to nearly pull off the unthinkable, would throw 2 more passes the rest of his career.